They laughed. Oh, how they laughed. Pointed fingers, crooked smiles, little whispers behind coffee cups. Impossible, they muttered, as if that word was sacred. As if saying it made them gods of reality. You stood there, didn't you? In that chaos. Surrounded by doubt dressed up as advice, failure disguised as wisdom. They said, sit down, stay quiet, know your place. And you almost did. Almost. But something twisted inside you, didn't it? A little grin under the weight of it all. Not because you were sure, but because something in you had already cracked, and through that crack, something fierce started breathing. Ah, they said impossible, didn't they? With those smug little smirks and the kind of certainty only fools wear like cologne. They paraded their facts, their stats, their graphs, their logic, as if reality ever played by those polite little rules. As if a cage made of numbers and history could contain a mind that already escaped long ago. You didn't shout back. No, no, no. You just looked at them. That slow burning look. The kind that says, I've already seen it happen, just not here yet. You didn't argue, you didn't flinch. You let them have their moment, let them toast their tiny vision of what was possible, because you knew something they didn't. You knew that impossible is a word spoken by the comfortable, by those who've never had to claw their way through madness just to get a glimpse of light. You've met impossible. You've had dinner with it, slept beside it, and somewhere along the way you realized it bleeds just like everything else. You saw what they didn't. You saw how fear dresses itself up in logic, how failure is just the decoy guarding the real treasure. You knew better than to fight them head on. You didn't need to prove anything in the moment, because people like you don't announce revolutions, they detonate them. You went to work. Quiet, unshaken. You began stitching chaos into your blueprint. You took every no, every chuckle, every eye roll, and turned it into mortar, brick by brick. You didn't build a comeback, you built a warning. You trained in the shadows while they danced in the light. They thought you disappeared. They thought you quit. Oh, how delicious that silence must have been. But you weren't gone. You were transforming. Because real power doesn't roar. It waits. It sharpens. And then it happens. That moment. The one they never saw coming. When the curtain burns and you step out, not begging, not proving, just being. And suddenly impossible starts to look small. Like a child's bedtime story. Like a lie someone once whispered to keep dreamers asleep. The same people who doubted you now watch with the same mouths they used to dismiss you. And the funny part? They think it was overnight. They call it luck, a fluke. As if you didn't walk through fire barefoot while they were cozy in their routines. You didn't just beat impossible. You humiliated it. You didn't argue with their facts, you made them obsolete. You didn't win the game. They're still playing checkers while you lit the whole board on fire. And now they want to know how. They lean in with those hungry eyes. But the secret is this. There was never a plan. Just madness. Hunger. A refusal to believe in their ceiling. You didn't need a map. You were the storm. You were the loophole reality didn't see coming. And now they have to rewrite the rules. Because someone who wasn't supposed to win just did. Loudly. Unforgivably. And not just for themselves, but for every other fool who was told to stay in line and wait their turn. They laughed when you said you were chosen. Of course they did. That word, chosen, it makes people squirm, makes them uncomfortable. Because deep down, they know what it means. It means someone's been marked for something they don't understand, something they can't control. And if they're not the one chosen, then what are they? Background noise? Extras in someone else's scene? They'll call you delusional before they ever admit that the universe might actually be speaking through you. Because if you're chosen, then they might be forgotten. And oh, people hate that feeling more than death itself. But being chosen doesn't come with confetti. It doesn't show up with trumpets and a crown. It shows up in pain. It shows up when everything around you collapses and you're still breathing, still standing, still cursed with vision. Chosen doesn't look like glory. It looks like madness, isolation, nights where your own thoughts feel like enemies. Being chosen means you hear things no one else can. You feel storms before the clouds even gather. You see doors where others see walls, and that scares them. So they try to break you, not because you're weak, but because you're evidence that the world is deeper than comfort, that there's something out there calling certain people louder. You became a mirror, and what they saw terrified them. Because when a chosen one walks into the room, everyone has to reckon with what they're not doing, what they gave up on, what they ignored. You became the reminder they didn't ask for, and that's dangerous. They called you crazy, didn't they? Said you were dreaming too big, too bold. They whispered behind your back, passed around doubt like candy. But while they were busy doubting, you were evolving, quietly, ruthlessly, because chosen people don't need permission. They just move. They act. They carry weight that would crush others and smile through it like it's light as paper. And that's the joke. No one sees how heavy it is. They see the fire, but not the ashes it took to light it. You've been to hell and back with no roadmap. You've heard silence so loud it almost tore your mind in two. You've seen the ones you loved vanish when the storms hit, leaving you with nothing but belief. And still, you kept going, because something inside you refused to die. Something primal, something ancient. That voice, that whisper in the chaos, it told you to keep walking. It told you this wasn't the end, that your name wasn't written in pencil, it was carved in something eternal. Being chosen means you'll be misunderstood, ridiculed, betrayed. But it also means you'll outlast all of them. You'll rise while they sleep. You'll create while they complain. You'll make history while they scroll. And when it all comes together, they'll pretend they always knew. They'll rewrite their version of events to make themselves feel close to greatness. But deep down, they'll know. They'll remember the moment you said, "I was chosen," and they laughed. They'll remember the fire in your eyes, the way you didn't break, the way you didn't flinch. Because chosen ones never beg to be believed. They become undeniable. You think being underestimated is a curse? No. It's a gift, a twisted little blessing wrapped in mockery. They see you, and they think they've seen it all. They size you up, put a label on you, shove you in their little mental box labeled harmless or forgettable. They call you weak because you don't bark back. They call you lost because you're quiet. But oh, the irony. Because while they sleep on you, you're plotting. While they joke, you're evolving. And while they laugh, you're learning exactly where to strike. Underestimation is camouflage. It's the art of being invisible to the blind. You walk through the battlefield and no one notices your hands are bleeding. No one sees the plans you've buried deep behind your silence. They just think you're soft, easy, someone to overlook. And that's the game. That's the setup. Because no one prepares for the invisible threat. No one expects the quiet one to have claws. They always go for the loud ones first, the peacocks, the screamers, the show-offs, but not you. You sit in the shadows, building your war chest, brick by bloody brick. They'll say things like, "You don't have what it takes," and expect you to fold. But those words, they don't hurt you. They fuel you. Every insult becomes ammunition. Every doubt becomes design. They throw shade and you absorb it like a solar panel, turning their mockery into momentum. Because they forgot one very dangerous detail. Pressure doesn't crush everyone. Sometimes it creates monsters. Sometimes it creates legends. They keep talking, keep pointing, keep betting on your failure. But they don't realize the more they ignore you, the stronger you get. The more they laugh, the more you study. They gave you time, space, the most dangerous gift of all, freedom to grow without interference. And now, while they're still playing checkers, you've already learned the chessboard inside out. You know the patterns, the traps, the sacrifices. You know how to take a loss and smile because you've already calculated the win 5 moves ahead. They'll act surprised when you rise. Where did that come from, they'll ask, as if you didn't bleed for this, as if you didn't build it from the bones of every breakdown. They won't remember the nights you sat alone, losing your mind just to find your purpose. They won't know the version of you that cried on the floor, whispering to the ceiling for something, anything, to change. They only see the version that walks in power, and they'll call it luck. As if you didn't claw your way here with broken nails and bruised faith. You were underestimated because the world is addicted to appearances. If you don't sparkle, they assume you're not gold. If you don't shout, they assume you're not dangerous. They forgot that some storms arrive without thunder. Some wars are won in silence. And some of the most dangerous people in history started out as jokes. So stay quiet if you must. Stay hidden if you need. But never stay small for their comfort. Let them talk. Let them write you off. Because the look on their faces when they realize you were the threat all along, that is the real punchline. They call it pain, like it's just a feeling. Like it's a thing you cry about and then forget with a good song and a stronger drink. But pain is a sculptor. It doesn't just pass through you. No, it stays. It rearranges the furniture of your soul, tears down the walls, rewires your wiring. It's not a visitor, it's a contractor. And oh, it works overtime. It teaches you things no teacher dares to whisper. It sharpens your senses, peels off the fake layers, and dares you to look in the mirror without blinking. You break once, and people say move on. You break twice, and they say get help. But when you break 1,000 times and still keep breathing, that's not survival. That's evolution. You become something else entirely. You're not the same anymore, and they'll feel it before they see it. You speak differently. Walk differently. The light in your eyes gets replaced by something colder, deeper. You stop begging the world to understand. You stop waiting for the apology. You just become the version of yourself that no one was ready for. See, pain doesn't ask for permission. It barges in, ruins the party, knocks over your dreams like wine glasses on a table. And then it sits. It makes itself at home. And in that silence, you start talking to it like an old friend. You learn its language. And once you know that language, you can read people better than any book. You see their pain behind the smile, their fear behind the laughter, their lies behind their sermons. You don't judge anymore. You just nod. Because once you've danced with pain, you can hear the music playing in everyone else. The funny part? People fear pain more than failure, more than death. But pain, real soul-bending pain, has a strange way of cleaning you out, stripping you of your illusions. It burns away the fantasy, the false hope, the pretty lies you told yourself to get through the day. It doesn't care about your comfort. It only cares about your transformation. And you either become bitter or you become brilliant. You either let it chain you or you use the chains to build armor. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, like it's a motivational quote on a coffee mug. But the truth is, what doesn't kill you rewires you. It makes you quiet in rooms where you once screamed. It makes you alert in situations where you once trusted. It makes you lethal where you were once soft. And the world doesn't know what to do with that kind of transformation. It's scared of people who've died emotionally and still came back swinging. Because they can't be manipulated. They can't be tamed. They've seen the bottom, made it their bedroom, and climbed out with nothing but a grin and a scar. People like that. They don't flinch anymore. They don't chase closure. They don't need validation. Pain took all that, burned it in front of them like a ritual. And in that fire, they found a part of themselves that doesn't need saving. Just a mission, just a purpose, just a reason to walk into the storm smiling because they've already been struck by lightning and survived. So when someone tells you to avoid pain, laugh. When they say you're too emotional, smile. Because deep down, you know something they don't. Pain isn't weakness. Pain is the forge. And some of the most dangerous creations in history were built in silence, in fire, in agony, and in absolute unholy truth. People don't really want to hear the truth. They want comfort. They want noise, distractions, pretty little lies with glitter on top. Because the truth is like a razor in a room full of balloons. It pops the illusion. And that makes people very uncomfortable. They'll tell you to be honest, but what they really mean is be agreeable, be quiet, be manageable. Don't disturb their fragile equilibrium with your inconvenient awareness. But some of us weren't built to play along. Some of us see through the makeup on this clown show. We know when someone smiles too wide. Something's broken underneath. We can hear the tremble in the voice behind the laughter. We can smell the desperation behind the suits and the staged applause. And we don't clap. We just stare, unbothered, unmoved. Because once you've seen the strings behind the puppet show, the magic trick doesn't impress you anymore. It starts with silence. Not the kind that's peaceful, but the kind that's loud, deafening. The kind that surrounds you when you realize you're not who you thought you were. When the version of you that played by the rules gets slaughtered by the reality that the game was always rigged. And there you are, sitting in the wreckage of your good intentions, your loyalty, your kindness. All of it thrown back in your face like confetti in a wind tunnel. That's where the real transformation starts. See, they train you to be soft, to comply, to smile when you're bleeding, to say you're fine when you're screaming. But eventually the mask starts to crack. The yes turns into try me. The bowed head starts to rise. And the silence? Oh, the silence becomes strategy. You start listening more than you talk, watching more than you move. And while they're busy underestimating you, you're studying them like a surgeon studies anatomy. Quiet, precise, calculated. People fear the moment you stop explaining yourself. When you stop justifying your absence. When your presence no longer asks for a seat at their table. Because now you're building your own table. Out of bones if you have to. That's when they realize, oh, you were never weak. You were just simmering, waiting. You were absorbing everything they thought you didn't notice. The side eyes, the backhanded compliments, the betrayals dressed as concern. You remembered it all. You just didn't react. Not yet. Revenge. No. Too simple. What you want now is something far more dangerous. Elevation. You want to build in silence, win in shadows, haunt their thoughts with your success. Not because you need their recognition, but because you want them to choke on the realization that they pushed the wrong person. that the quiet one they overlooked became the storm, the blueprint, the threat. And what's scarier than someone who's been through hell and doesn't flinch anymore? Someone who's mastered their demons, danced with them, poured them tea, and made them allies. Someone who doesn't just survive, but thrives in the chaos. That kind of person, you can't break them. You can't intimidate them. You can't shame them. They've already been through worse, and they came back with eyes that don't blink and a heart that doesn't beg. So next time they look at you and see calm, know it's not peace, it's power. It's what happens when the war inside ends, and the soldier within takes command. No more seeking approval, no more needing applause. You become your own revolution, and revolutions don't knock politely. They kick the door in and rewrite the script with blood, grit, and a smile that says, "I warned you, but you didn't listen."